And how are you doing all these things? Oh, of course, you have your lawyers in Kenya, but that must be a headache when you're having to deal.
It's a headache. You're looking at a situation where it's either you do it or lose millions. We have so far invested over $12 million. It's either you lose a project of $12 million and all keep at it, keep fighting it with prayer, hoping that at one of these days the courts will be listened to and the laws will be enforced. That's what you keep doing, hoping that the courts.
Are you saying you have invested $12 million in the project?
This project has cost more than $12 million.
How much money have you spent in Kenya trying to fight this injustice through the court system?
Right now is about 12 million shillings.
12 million
in legal fees. Name those big names or major known senior counsels. They have all had $1 million or more from GeoNet.
And you're fighting. You're hiring lawyers and going to court.
I have so many lawyers working for GeoNet even now as I'm talking to you.
Having them to go to court so that they can enforce the laws that are already, not that they create new laws, but the laws are already in the books.
The laws are in the books. There's actually right now where because some of my American investors, they really want to get their investment back. And you know, there's someone been go to Congress, get this the US Congress to help you. But one of the lawyers said, Peter, okay, we do not know when the Court of Appeal will get these orders for enforced, or the High Court to get.
So who is appealing? Who is appealing?
Well, what happened is that we had one case. We calculated the loss we have incurred against Safaricom.
Yeah.
And it came to 10.48 billion shillings. So we sued them for 10.4 billion shillings.
That is the losses, not the legal, not your legal fees.
No, that's our lost business.
Lost business. Okay,
10.48 billion. And we calculated and we showed the court. That judge says he doesn't have jurisdiction to handle it. So we gave it to the Court of Appeal. She said that in March. So we had to take the Court of Appeal. She said she can't handle that kind of amount of money.
Kenya.
Yeah. So we have a case in the Court of Appeal for 10.4 billion.
So you're appealing for what? The judge saying she cannot.
We are appealing for lost minutes, lost business. And we have shown.
But that's a lawsuit. But that is a lawsuit against Safaricom, yeah?
That's a lawsuit against Safaricom. The law of enforcing the orders of the court is still pending. It's still being dealt with. You know, because the last year, April, Justice Mura of the High Court ruled, CA, you are the one who is not enforcing the law.
But the CA told you that they cannot enforce the laws, they will lose their job.
That's actually the CS who had told me that.
The CS. Were you in Atlanta last month?
Yeah, I went to Atlanta.
So the Safaricom CEO was there.
The schedule was very tight. We text each other. I said, Maina, I can't be able to talk on this. He appeared to be extremely bad. Eventually, I talked to the founding chairman, Michael Joseph, and the founding chairman of Safaricom. He explained to me what's going on. He was sympathetic that this has taken too long. The lawyers have another plan of appealing to Parliament once they constitute, for Parliament to check why their laws have not been enforced. Okay, before we start, satisfying the will of our American investors and appealing to U.S. Congress to intervene to help us out.
Are you actually planning to take this to Congress if all fails?
We've mentioned it to one or two senators that this is an issue we are having, but the American investors in them, they don't want to lose money.
Yeah,
they're saying, why don't you seek help from U.S. Congress?
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to go further than Kenyan Parliament.
I think they will do something. I think they will do something now that the Parliament, these kids, the Gen Z, are on top of everything.
If the people who are hijacking Gen Z don't ban the country, I think we have a real chance of a country being reborn with people learning to talk with each other and solve problems on the table. There's an element of them not having the knowledge, but the problem is when they don't have the knowledge, they should not be obstructionists. They should be letting everything work, so long as it's not interfering with the national security or defrauding Kenyans.
Yeah.
Okay. If Kenyans are not losing money, there is no national security threat. Technology should be allowed to grow. That's how Silicon Valley has evolved.
Yeah.
Is by letting private sector continue doing what they know how to do best, innovate. What I learned with the Kenyan civil service, if they do not know anything, they don't want to admit they don't know the technology, they block it.
Oh my gosh.
You see what they had done with WorldCoin. WorldCoin was just scanning, trying to bring in a new technology of authenticating people through the eyelids.
Wait, hold on 1 second, Peter. The world, because I just saw the hype about it. I didn't quite understand what the hype was about, but I don't even know to this day what it was. But now that you've mentioned that, and I know you as a pastor over here, I've seen a lot of pastors from Kenya talking about the world coin and how it's the one world order. They were trying to bring, they're getting us close to the world. What is it? One world order and all that.
And the mark of the beast.
They're putting chips on babies. I don't know. We don't have that.
Well, there's chips on babies getting chips from Microsoft CEO, former chairman. And the issue of GMO, that actually has caused so many pastors to lie because they are talking on things they do not understand.
There are some pastors that are very well known that are talking this stuff.
I met some professors and pastors last May. Pastor, let's separate politics from science.
Yeah.
Do you like hybrid corn? You like that in Nyandarua there were days you could not grow maize. I grew up in Dodori. We had no breed for maize that could grow in Dodori. You like the fact that now you can enjoy your maize in Dodori. And it's, yes, I do. But that is enhancement of the positive genes that can do well there. It's not necessarily pure genetic modification, but it's just being able to enhance the traits in that plant that can survive the cold area. Anyway, let's not digress to GMO because I am an ecologist and a pastor.
I'm gonna bring you back, Peter. We're gonna talk about these things because people even I need to know some of these things because for me, maybe I'm anti-GMO for maybe health reasons.
For politics reasons.
No, not politics. For health reason. When I'm eating a tomato that look like my head, and I go to the supermarket or farmer's market, and everywhere I go is seedless grapes, seedless watermelon, seedless this.
But that's not genetic modification. You can actually do grafting without, you see, the key word there is genetic. You're not really mutating that gene. In other words, actually you are just enhancing the stronger gene. Genetic modification that becomes a major issue is when, like, you take an animal gene and like maybe a caterpillar gene and crossbreed it with a maize gene, so that the pest does not like that maize.
This GeoNet, GeoNet. Were you trying to be an internet provider? Was it to make it easier for the people in diaspora to call Kenya, or what exactly?
The whole aim was initially because there was not enough connectivity in Kenya, bandwidth connectivity in Kenya. GeoNet Communications was established July 2000 to provide telecommunication services and mainly internet as an ISP, internet service provider. But the government really troubled us with the internet. We bring satellite, they call them illegal communication equipment.
So why do you think the government was doing that? You are trying to help the country here, or was it, did they want something from you, or was it?
Of course, what had happened all along was government was operating with the British colonial administration mentality. Unless it's done by government, you can't do it.
You could not compete with Kenya Telecom.
You should not compete with Kenya Telecom. So, and that was a major problem until Kibaki came in and now started liberalizing it. And initially we were skeptical, but President Kibaki sent a great delegation to Atlanta that really started and really telling us we are going to liberalize the economy. And I was in Atlanta. Actually, one of the people who had come from Kibaki administration was the chief economist, Kamau Dunge, and many others. They came, and Tuju was there, the minister Tuju, And we believe the Kebake.
Yeah.
So I put together quite a number of people who to investors here, some friends, some Kenyans, some Jewish friends here, and others American. We put in the money. We raised our first $1 million around 2005 and rolled out our first services.
How are you dealing with, or how are your shareholders for GeoNet taking this whole mess? Like, well, how are they?
There are some, especially I feel for the Kenyans, because there are some Kenyans who invested upward of maybe $250,000. Yeah.
All right. So how are you, Mr. Peter?
I'm good. And you?
I am doing good. I'm doing so good.
I will explain to you later on why I chose the desert screen background, virtual screen.
Oh, is that, you asked me,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. There it is. No, it's beautiful. I like it. Look like someplace in Dubai.
Mostly it's Arizona, Utah.
Oh, is that the Kenyan?
Actually, this is Arizona and Utah. We've been there with my family for vacation, like Moab, Utah, Moab National Park in Utah.
Okay.
I know in Arizona, and then Grand Canyon area. Yeah, like that.
Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. It's very beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Where are you now? Because I don't see you in church. We go to the same church, but I never see you guys for like years.
I don't know. I never, if I am not in church, I am out of state or out of the country.
What service do you go to? Do you go to the first service or the second service?
I do second service.
Oh.
And I've always done second service since 1992. When I came to Rutgers, the first church to go to was Faith Fellowship. The only time I took a break was part of 1995, 98. I think around the time we were meeting in
New York. No, that was New York.
I was helping evangelist Remo and Pastor Layton.
Yeah, because I remember I think Pastor I met, he was when we used to go to church in New York, the FEM church in New York.
It still goes on. FEM is still going.
Layton passed away. He passed.
He didn't pass away, but the ministry goes on. Whatever God starts continues in spite of personality changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it continues because it was, God's word remains forever, never changes.
Oh, that's good. So you ready to do this?
Yes, I'm ready. No problem.
We're going to start by you telling us about yourself, a little bit about yourself, your journey from Kenya to here. Just tell us a little bit about you. You went to school, and then we're going to go into the business.
Well, my journey is a huge story. I think everybody thinks their journey is a story, but mine is very huge. In that I am from the places you don't expect people to get out of and go to college. That was a place called Ndodori Forest.
No, you're not.
I am a Ndodori product.
Remind me at the end of the interview. I'll tell you something about the camera about my experience with that.
Okay, I am from Ndodori, and that's where we grew up. Actually, if you read J.M. Karaoke's book, Mau Mau Diteni, page number 3, he references my grandfather's place being the place they were getting a lot of material for oathing Mau Mau people. He was, what had happened is my grandfather was the first generation of the Kikuyus who had moved to Rift Valley from Central to work for the European. Mostly they moved with the railway, but also to the farms. So when he came to the point of retiring, around 1920s there, it's a book. There's a book by an author called she is called Elspeth Huxley. Huxley has captured very well the story of the Kikuyu migration to the Rift Valley. Okay. And around 1920-25, there was an issue on land for competition between the white people and the Kikuyus, because the Kikuyus came with their livestock. Yeah. And they were the main providers of tilling. They were not tractors. So they tilled the land for the white people. Maasais would look after the cattle. Many tribes didn't want to do manual farm labor, but the Kikuyus were very good at it. My grandfather mainly was working with the railway. So when they retired, they were in Nakuru town, a place called Bodeni. They were told they couldn't keep more livestock there. They couldn't stay in the city again with their sheep and goat and cows, and they were pushed up the forest of Dondori.
Oh, that's how they ended up in Dodori.
So they ended up in Dodori. Now they couldn't go back to central Kenya. Most of them staying in Dodori, and that is it was the greatest thing with Dodori was there was always rain. We never really knew drought, but you know the only crops that grew there were things like potatoes, peas, and no maize per se. So poverty was very, very, very high. You did the shamba system for the forestry department, but you only were able to till so much. So, and the crops you are growing, competing with trees, at some point they were not producing enough. So poverty was so endemic in that area. And when I went to standard 1 in a place near Bahati Center, the school then was called Yakuth, now it's called Murongaro. My father could not afford to pay for his brother, my older sister, and my older brother. So after the first few months of school, I was kicked out of school in standard 1 because my father couldn't afford less than 2 shillings for yeah, and I stayed out of school for 2 years.
Class 1.
Yeah, I stayed out of school for 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
By the time I'm going back to school, that's how they were, how poor they were. By the time they were going back to school, the teacher thought this kid is too old to go back to standard 1, so they took me straight for standard 2. So I never had a standard 1.
Oh my gosh.
And life started being an issue of always struggling to stay in school because of school fees. Then comes CPE. I did my CPE in the late 70s, and I would have gone to a government school, but the Bahati area had only one government school with.
I thought Bahati was an area past Nakuru to those sides of Joro. Is there another Bahati?
No, there's only one Bahati Nakuru as you between Nakuru and Nyahururu, or Nakuru and Dodori. Bahati is on the other side as you before Solai.
I don't know where Solai is.
Yeah, when the Solai is towards Baringo, when you're coming from Nakuru town heading towards Nyahururu. There was only one Catholic school there, secondary school called Bahati Secondary, and could only take 40 students. So luckily enough, Yeka Kimani, God bless his soul, because he's a great man who settled many people who could not be able to afford land. He settled them in Nakuru County, in Laikipia County. He was a great man and a great leader. He had started the Gotanero school, Shule at Jomo Kenyatta, like a year before I did my CPE. And the school was affordable. My parents couldn't really do much, but my uncle stepped in and paid for my Form 1 at Bahati. We were the second stream. And when we got our junior, I did junior. I was one of the last people to do junior secondary school. By God's grace, we passed very well. Keka Kimani had really brought in very good teachers. The headmaster was a PhD holder. We had math teachers from India, and
the Keheka guy, was he like an MP or something?
He was member of parliament and Kanu chair of Nakuru. But he was so committed to helping many people who are peasant in Wazungu's farm settle down. In actually the whole of Nakuru County and Laikipia County, Keheka and Jenga Karume, they are the principal people who help many people settle down. Most of these people, like my parents and I, didn't even know where to start going looking for land. Keheka organized all these people into land buying companies. There were other companies that really cheated people out of their money, but Keheka delivered.
Is Keheka the father of the current Nakuru governor?
The father of Susan. I often tell to her, Susan, I really look forward to her doing exactly like her father. Because that man made a huge impact.
He wasn't like the politicians we have today.
He was a politician, but he meant to, he was determined to get people settled down and having schools and having water. Like schooling, he was so good in building school. Actually, there's a place called Kenyan Maina, just about 6 miles from Nakuru town, heading to Bahati. Kenyan Maina, he built that school.
Oh, wow.
And many other schools. That's why Keika could go to Laikipia, get elected. He could go to Joro, get elected. Moro, get elected. Naivasha, get elected. Everywhere, because all these are my people he helped settle down.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I went to school from 1 and 2. And then after junior, we did so well. A lot of us performed so well that the government took us to national schools. I found my name at the Litvari provincial education. You know, I had been sent to a place called Kabianga in Kericho. That's where I finished my O-levels.
Okay.
And then after O-levels, I had not chosen Aga Khan High School in Nairobi because I couldn't choose a day school. I didn't know anybody in Nairobi. I had chosen Goriath for my A-levels, but unfortunately, I was not taken. Somebody brought me to Nairobi to check at the Ministry of Education why I was not allocated a school I chose.
Was Goriath a boarding school, but Aga Khan?
Goriath high school was a boarding school for boys.
Okay.
Me and my best friend, we had chosen Goriath High School. Okay. But eventually, the Minister of Education said, well, some mistake was done. Do you have a place to stay near Nairobi? We can allocate your school, but it's the day school. I asked which one? Aga Khan High School. I had not known. The nearest relative I had was in Banana.
Wow.
But I didn't want to miss A-level, so I went to Aga Khan High School. But to cut a long story short, in the process, coming from Banana to Aga Khan on the Wayaki Way was very difficult. There was a Kenya bus that was going there, but it was expensive. The time I was my parents had said they can't afford to take me for A-levels. But I told them somehow I'll get bursary. And eventually I finished my A-levels with a bursary at Aga Khan High School.
Wow.
And I found a church that was very welcoming in Kangemi. I lived in Kangemi. I lived in Kangemi for Form 5 and Form 6.
Okay.
After Form 5 and Form 6, there is something that had happened to me at when I was in Form 1 and 2. Two things happened. One, there was a weekend mission work by a Christian Union Fellowship from Nyahururu High School.
Okay.
They had come to preach in school.
Okay.
And I had been born again earlier, but they gave us Bibles. They gave us Gideon Bibles.
Yeah, those
and a small one.
Yeah.
And I love my Gideon. It was always in my pocket.
Okay.
I started realizing, especially because I don't know why I gravitated to the book of Romans. And the more I read Romans, I came to the part that was saying the whole creation groans. That's Romans 8. The whole creation groans, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. So at that time, the nation had a huge problem. The whole country had a huge problem with poaching, ivory poaching. And the wildlife clubs of Kenya had been formed.
Okay.
So I don't know why, but I just felt to gravitate towards wildlife clubs of Kenya. And then that's what I was reading in the book of Romans. The first time I read the Bible was when I got that one, that Gideon. I also heard from a song that used to come from Makongoro in Tanzania, but used to come on Sundays with there's a guy that used to be called Timothy Kamau, who used to preach on Sundays, and he had a music program called Wimbo Ni Upendao. With that time, those days we had only one radio station.
That was VOK.
VOK, on Sundays, Wimbo Ni Upendao. And the song would go, na wanyama wakaangamia kwa sababu ya dhambi zako mwanadamu. Creation is groaning, waiting for God's sons to be manifested. And I'm seeing that in the Bible. So I became a very strong member of wildlife clubs.
You mean to tell me you are able to connect the song mwanadamu wanyama wakaangamia kwa sababu ya dhambi with what you're reading in the book of Romans?
Not only then, Up to now, to me, a Bible is not a history book, but a record book of human walk with God and nature.
Yeah.
It records how humans have interacted with the environment and their God. I'll show you how that one comes in later. But I'm telling you that the song and the scripture really started me on a journey to become a wildlife person.
Okay.
And I joined the wildlife clubs of Kenya at Guatanero. The second year I am in Kabianga. I am the leader of wildlife clubs of Kenya. So it's Christian Union and wildlife.
Wow.
And that never changed. And literally until 1990s. The combination of the two. Because what happened is even when I'm at Aga Khan High School, I'm leading wildlife clubs of Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm taking students, Indians and Arabs and others and Africans to Amboseli National Park. Actually, I wanted to make my background one of my favorite Amboseli elephant who died 2 years ago called Tim.
Okay.
Because Amboseli is a park that I planned.
You keep a record of all these animals?
I'll give you the story. So my teachers are telling students that when you people keep following Maina wherever he's taking you to the Nakuru National Park, to Amboseli and other places. This guy is living here and going to get employment at Kenya Wildlife. But some of you don't have a career yet. It was so prophetic because 2 weeks after my A-level results were out, I was already employed at the Kenya Regional Ecological Monitoring Unit by the Wildlife Department.
Before you even got your results?
Just 2 weeks after the results. Actually, they were waiting for the results.
Okay. Wow.
I was already being employed there because I had already appeared several times at the Koba magazine on Kenya Wildlife, Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. I was working like volunteering like Nakuru National Park. I was working at the museums of Kenya. Actually, before when I was waiting for my A-levels to get to the results, I had collected a lot of specimens for East African Herbarium, and I already knew botanical taxonomy. I could classify plants. By the time I left, I had more than 600 specimens at the herbarium. My career was set straight from high school. It was both Bible and a focus on Bible and wildlife conservation.
That's very, very impressive, especially getting the job straight from A-levels and, getting jobs in Kenya. Well, I don't know about your time, but it's not that easy, even for college graduates.
Actually, by that time, I had not even gone to college. By the time I'm being employed. But the idea of conserving our habitats and our environment had already been ingrained in me through not only the Bible, but also having grown in Dodori forest with all these animals. And then having seen some habitat degradation that we were worrying. And actually, even by the time, now I'll tell you 1992, 1991 and 92, I'm a research assistant at that time at Kenya Regional and Ecological Monitoring Unit. My senior officers were like Governor Otichiro of Vihiga. We've always known each other. He was ahead of me. And as we were proceeding with our work at Kremu, it used to be called Kremu, then African Wildlife Foundation gave me a scholarship to go and study to become a game warden.
A scholarship to go to the US?
African Wildlife Foundation gave me a scholarship to go to Tanzania.
Oh, to Tanzania?
Yeah, because what had happened is that from 1963, when most of Africa was getting independent, there was no college, no university in Africa teaching wildlife management. But United Nations had already established a wildlife college in a place called Mweka in Moshi, Tanzania. And the college was both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. So it trained almost all our game wardens until I think Moi University in late 80s came up with a wildlife management program. But I still know, that's what I heard recently, Mweka still trained African game wardens. So most of the managers you see in, like my age and younger, maybe about in their 40s, should be actually products of Mweka, game wardens from Mweka, all maybe Moi. Some of the first classes are graduates of Moi wildlife program. Okay. But anyway, I got to Tanzania in 1983, and the boundary was closed. That was the days that Nyerere and Moi government were not getting along, but
and still the border.
The border had been closed.
Okay.
But because the Mweka College was an international college,
yeah,
they would allow us to go through. Okay. But you have to get through Namanga. You had to get a clearance from Dar es Salaam. So you had to get clearance through telegrams and all that before you could go there. But anyway, I did my training as a game warden. And for 2 years there, I came out with a diploma in wildlife management. And, toured most of Tanzania, all the way to southern Tanzania, hunting elephants, hunting buffaloes, but not really hunting them, getting them out of people's farms. You don't use a whip to get herd of elephant from people's maize field. You use a gun. So you are trained to use your guns very well. Yeah. And climbing Mount Kilimanjaro as part of the training. So I've been to the top of Kilimanjaro and many other places. So I became very attached to nature. So that's the career I started. But then I noticed something around between 82 and 85. I started arguing with the science that was available then, that the huge loss that we were experiencing of wildlife population was being caused by poaching. I started arguing that the habitat loss had a bigger impact on population dynamics of wildlife population than poaching. Yeah. And eventually, the science have been proving me right. So to study more wildlife, our habitat changes, and especially ground cover, I decided gravitating towards technologies that will help me capture a lot of data that is not available, analyze it, and be able to say, look, this is where this woodland was. This is where this woodland is now. This is a trajectory. We need to find a way of reversing it. It's actually what we call ecosystem engineering. And that, in 86, it brought me to studying more satellite stuff. To start now looking,
Why satellites?
Because satellites imagery was the cheapest way or the best way to capture habitat trend. To be able to view what's going on in Serengeti ecosystem. And the Serengeti ecosystem actually starts from around Suswa in Longonot. When I was in Tanzania, there's something I was doing even in Kangemi when I was in high school. We preach a lot on the streets of Kangemi. I've always loved the preaching the gospel. I just want other people to know the truth or the redemptive story of Christ and people to come to the Lord. So my first congregation actually was in Tanzania in that college.
Oh, wow.
I saw drunk and turning away from alcohol and getting born again.
Yeah.
I saw God healing some Japanese. We had Americans, we Japanese, we had 17 other African countries.
Was it a ministry that you started in Tanzania, or was it like a Christian Union type of?
Just a Christian Union in college.
But
people started getting born again and people started getting healed. There was a madman that while getting healed out of hospital.
Wow.
I said, and there was a Japanese colleague of mine, he was doing research in wildlife. He had a lot of problem with his stomach ache. He prayed for him and God healed him. So I started knowing that God had a call for me for ministry really before even I went to Tanzania. But in Tanzania is where the first congregation I had that now was meeting every Sunday.
Okay. Oh,
so
wow.
That was something I was doing. And yes, so there's a lot of, I love wildlife. I've been to a lot of Tanzanian parks, so more than Kenyan parks. So the relationship was, here I was going to try and save wildlife, but then I realized also human soul needed saving, and I was combining both. 86 comes the French or the European Space Agency are launching their first satellite to deal with habitat and climate change monitoring. And I was picked to be one of the people to study it. their satellite system. Now you're moving now from correcting plans to being able now to viewing these plans from 700 miles in space and analyzing habitat complexities and threats. And when I was doing that, I realized, well, we just studying one satellite platform is not enough. And then somehow a door opened for me to come to Colorado State University. September '86, I was at School of Natural Resources, Forestry and Natural Resource Management at Colorado State University. So see that how the struggle come. And actually, then '87, I was ordained by a church in Loveland, Colorado, that is still a very large church. Even my grandkids do go there.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, and that church actually paid for my school because the scholarship I had was very short, but expanded in that. And when we finished at Colorado State, moved back to Kenya, and then I'm working with the Kenya Wildlife Service. When the Wildlife Management Department changed from Wildlife Management Department to Kenya Wildlife Service under Dr. Leakey, and then I did the planning management of Amboseli National Park. I did a few, I started introducing something called enclosures to try and keep elephant from destroying the forest. You know, actual aggressive ecosystem engineering. We started, it was difficult, but also I introduced geographic information systems and GPS usage, early 90s in Kenya.
GPS usage in the 90s.
Yes, we have a report for users of GPS. It was actually very accurate.
Wow.
That's what I used for planning, for developing new upgrading maps of Amboseli National Park in 1990.
That's impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, when I was finishing that plan, I still have a copy here in my home office of that plan. When I was finishing that planning, Dr. Leakey had come to US and said, Peter, I have gotten you a place to do your master's and PhD in satellite data systems. And I did not know New Jersey had such a good university, and I didn't know Rutgers, but he got me Rutgers University, and I came to graduate school. I came to graduate school at Rutgers, the Center for Remote Sensing on Cook campus.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I was staying on Bush campus, but for where the married graduate students were, but my research labs were on Cook campus. And while I'm doing that, the Dr. Leakey was fired.
So were you dealing directly with Dr. Leakey from Kenya? The Dr. Leakey, was he what was he? He was in government.
He passed on, I think, a year and a half ago. But Dr. Leakey was my boss directly. I could not start GIS without his support.
He's the one who made connection for you to come here the second time.
He's the one who got the scholarship. He's the one who applied for me to come, brought the professors over. And by that time I had trained a core mass of students, of people at Kenya Wildlife Service, another department on GIS use. You know, before Google we were doing that work with GIS and GPS.
Wow.
But I had studied that at Colorado State University, and a little bit in Nairobi at the Center for Remote Sensing. So my career now started shifting away from just pure ecological monitoring or wildlife ecology to information systems.
Okay. That's the part I want us to talk about.
I wanted to show you the connection.
How is that connection shifting?
The connection was to analyze all this satellite data, you needed the very powerful computers. Okay. So you needed to understand computing. And the first thing I did was 92 when I was here, when I came here, was to do a class in computer system analyst. Okay. Analysis or becoming an analyst. But I started with Unix system analyst. Okay. And, you know, Unix, Linux, and whatever. So those are the computers we're using to handle this huge database. Yeah. And I use the same computers to design a corridor between Nairobi National Park and the dispersal area for Nairobi wildlife. I designed a corridor about a mile wide. I can see it's being encroached now, but it connects most of the Nairobi wildlife all the way to near Isinya and Kajiado Township.
Okay. While you're doing that work, while you are based here in USA, but you're working for them?
Yes, I was doing that, but also I would visit Nairobi. I have a lot of Nairobi National Park is a park I did do a lot of my research on wildlife population. Mainly the issue is human population in Africa is growing. Habitat loss is a real issue. How do you balance the two? Because the first thing you go when you're studying wildlife in your first classes, you're told in wildlife management, you manage people, you manage habitat, and you manage the wildlife population. So you're dealing with three lives to deal with.
How do you manage people?
Actually, the worst component is the people component.
Yes, I agree.
They want the same land. Yeah. They want the same honey from that park. They want the water from that park that the wildlife also wanted. Managing wildlife population is very easy if you could manage the people factor. And then, I needed computing tools. And when Dr. Leakey was fired by the Moi regime, I realized no matter what I did, I had already a difficult time dealing with Kenyan civil servants. There was one. I had bad experience leaving them drunk in the forest and sending the driver back to pick them up, because I don't believe people should go and take an impressed, get per diem to go get drunk, like talk while you have work in the office and you're telling people you are in the field working. And that's common to this day.
That's just
a lot of wastage.
That's just
yeah. So anyway, that's what my experience was with Dr. Leakey. When they fired him, I realized so I got admitted for PhD work, but I got the Rutgers University Department for Marine Science had a project on what we call geospatial erosion monitoring. Monitoring the loss of beaches in New Jersey due to erosion, the storms and all that. But they didn't have the systems, the computing system to monitor it. So that's what I built in. I built in for Marine Science Department a GIS database facility that will capture almost, I think it was almost 50 years of data of beach movement. Wow. That's the data that most of the engineers would use to determine how much sand they need to come and replenish beaches. And New Jersey beaches have to be replenished periodically because of these storm surges and hurricanes. They erode the beaches very, very quickly. So that paid for most of my PhD coursework.
Are you saying every time we go to Jersey Shore, we should know that there's some contribution from a fellow Kenyan?
Yeah, but mostly on building the database. But that sand you see at the Jersey Shore, it has to keep being replenished.
Yeah, I see.
Because they keep being eroded. It's not like our East African coast, where the coral reefs keep helping replenish our beaches, and the Tana deltas and others. But beach sand has to be replenished in New Jersey periodically. Okay. So anyway, that's part of the research I was doing. When my grant ended, it ended in a very bad time. Here I am ending the coursework for my PhD work, and then the demand for GIS and other ICT skills was very high in New Jersey, and I'm torn in between: do I work or do I complete? Actually, my professor would be, Peter, why don't we just work one semester? Because then we will get this grant renewed, but don't take a long-term job, because once you interrupt your studies, you may not come back to finish that PhD. He was very prophetic, because once I took a job for an engineering firm in New Jersey that was doing civil engineering, building up their GIS services, data services. From there is forming GeoNet.
But did you go back to finish your PhD?
No, I didn't go back to finish the
never
PhD
went back.
Because I got bogged down in Kenya with GeoNet. GeoNet has been one of the biggest mistakes, and that will be the story of my background screen there. Because what happened, year 2000, we incorporated GeoNet in Kenya. The government was starting to open up the rest of the world for internet. And calling Kenya was very difficult. And as a pastor, as you know, in New York and here, I had known we were spending a lot of money calling home or trying to stay in touch.
Those days we used to buy calling cards. We used to call Kenya through calling cards. You buy
but it was still very expensive.
Yeah, or it will disconnect you in the middle, like after.
Actually, one time I had to spend on my grant almost $1,000 calling home, and my professor told me, Peter, this is enough for just have a ticket. You can
to go to
that
Kenya.
Money to go to Kenya
for a weekend.
So one other thing, when I saw how expensive people were spending so much money calling home, I decided this is not rocket science. I know what to do, So me and a few friends, we started a voice over IP project. But initially, there was no internet in Kenya, so we brought in satellite in Kenya.
But they did have internet in the 90s and 2000 in Kenya.
2000 in Kenya, we brought in our first satellite link, bringing internet from New York to Nairobi.
Before I came here, I worked for a nonprofit organization. And if I'm not mistaken, we used to have, I don't know if they used to call it Africa Online. Like, you know how we had America Online? There's something called, I think, Africa Online or something. But I did have internet in my office.
There was Africa Online, and there were a few people bringing in their satellites linkages, especially NGOs. They were allowed to bring their internet linkages. One of my best friends, Dr. Ochodo, is one of the first few people who brought in internet in Kenya in the early 90s. So, but it was a challenge. By the time I was working at the Kenya Wildlife Service, we did not have internet. That is 1991.
Okay, I'm about 97, 96.
Yeah, that time we didn't have internet. So I really wanted to change this nation and with the technology. And obviously, what would have chosen to just focus on investing in North America. But with a student visa, I realized unless I have a way of getting a green card, the best thing was just for us to focus with Kenya. Actually, that's the reason why we doubled down with a few friends, put most of the money into Kenya. And then we had to struggle with policy. Actually, 2001, my satellite link was shut down by the Kanu government.
It was open. Government then?
No, Moi government. They say that the satellite link was an illegal equipment, and we were told if you want internet, buy from Telecom Kenya. Telecom Kenya had only 32 megabits.
Was Telecom Kenya the Kenya Post and Telecommunications?
Yes, it had
only. They didn't have Safaricom then. The
Safaricom had just been formed, but was not that much known. We had only that 2 megabits of bandwidth coming from a ground satellite station in Suswa. And they're telling us to share that 2 megabits the whole country. So we couldn't operate. We shut down until Kibaki came to power.
Okay.
And then they started telling us, oh, now they started liberalizing the market. And by year 2000.
So let me understand this. Is this GeoNet, yeah? GeoNet. Were you trying to be an internet provider? Was it to make it easier for the people in diaspora to call Kenya, or what exactly?
The whole aim was initially because there was not enough connectivity in Kenya, bandwidth connectivity in Kenya. GeoNet Communications was established July 2000.
Okay.
To provide telecommunication services and mainly internet as an ISP, internet service provider.
Okay.
But to operate optimally, you needed your own bandwidth. Depending on Telecom Kenya was not going to count, was not going to work. But the Kanu government really troubled us with internet. We bring satellite, they call them illegal communication equipment.
So why do you think the Kanu government was doing that? You are trying to help the country here, or was it did they want something from you, or was it?
Of course, what had happened all along was the Kanu government was operating with the British colonial administration mentality. Unless it's done by government, you can't do it.
You could not compete with Kenya Telecom.
You could not compete with Kenya Telecom. Okay. So, and that was a major problem until Kibaki came in and now started liberalizing it. And initially we were skeptical, but President Kibaki sent a great delegation to Atlanta that really started and really telling us we are going to liberalize the economy. Just
you mean 2003, 2003, 2004?
Yeah, 2003,
Okay.
2004. And okay. I was in Atlanta. Actually, one of the people who had come from Kibaki administration was the chief economist, Kamau Dunge, and many others. They came, and Tuju was there, the minister Tuju, and we believed Kibaki, and we doubled down on investing in Kenya. And by 2005, they really had rolled out huge licenses. Those licenses were costing tens of millions of shillings, but they had really told us we are going to be very free in operation. Nobody's going to be muzzling us. Yeah. So I put together quite a number of people who to investors here, some friends, some Kenyans, some Jewish friends here, and others American. We put in the money. We raised our first $1 million around 2005 and rolled out our first services. But the Communication Commission of Kenya, which was called CCK, they were still behind in regulatory authority. They did not know some of these technologies. Yeah, they were still pushing back against technology like voice of IP. And we are still suffering.
What is their reason? What is their reason of pushing you guys back, even though now
what I learned with the Kenyan Civil Service, if they do not know anything, they don't want to admit they don't know the technology, they block it.
Oh my God.
You see what they had done with WorldCoin. WorldCoin was just scanning, trying to bring in a new technology of authenticating people through the iris.
Wait, hold on 1 second, Peter. The WorldCoin, because I just saw the hype about it. I didn't quite understand what the hype was about, but I don't even know to this day what it was. But now that you've mentioned that, and I know you as a pastor over here, I've seen a lot of pastors from Kenya talking about the WorldCoin and how it's the one world order. They were trying to bring, they're getting us close to the world. What is it? One world order and all that.
And the mark of the beast. I'll give you that. I can give you more the biblical perspective.
They're putting chips on babies. I don't know. We don't have that.
The chips on babies getting chips from Microsoft CEO, former chairman, and the issue of GMO. That actually has caused so many pastors to lie, because they are talking on things they do not understand.
There are some pastors that are very well known that are talking this.
I met some professors and pastors last May, and because I'll give you another story or something else we are doing on food security, and they talk about GMO. I told them, okay, pastor, let's separate politics from science. Yeah. Do you like hybrid corn? You like that in Nyandarua there were days you could not grow maize. I grew up in Dodori. We had no breed for maize that could grow in Dodori. You like the fact that now you can enjoy your maize in Dodori. And it's, yes, I do. But that is enhancement of the positive genes that can do well there. It's not necessarily pure genetic modification, but it's just being able to enhance the traits in that plant that can survive the cold area. Anyway, we let's not digress to GMO, because I am an ecologist and a pastor.
I'm gonna bring you back, Peter. We're gonna talk about these things because people even I need to know some of these things, because for me, maybe I'm anti-GMO for maybe health reasons.
For politics reasons. There are some.
No, not politics. For health reason. When I'm eating a tomato that look like my head, and I go to the supermarket or farmer's market, and everywhere I go is seedless grapes, seedless watermelon, seedless this.
But that's not genetic modification. You can actually do grafting without, you see, the key word there is genetic. You're not really mutating that gene. In other words, actually you are just enhancing the stronger gene. Genetic modification that becomes a major issue is when, like, you take an animal gene and like maybe a caterpillar gene and crossbreed it with a maize gene, so that the pest does not like that maize. Okay, but that becomes something else.
I think that's gonna be a topic I'm gonna bring you very soon, because you're gonna really help us between There's a Christianity
Now you wanted
department.
to know about my education. I think the education.
No. We already did that, but we didn't get into the details of it.
Okay,
So
the education part.
We're gonna get into science, and we're gonna get into Christianity, because it's all working together. We're gonna get into the politics.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have a real lesson and you teach us about, because you are a pastor, so you know what the Bible says, and you are very well informed when it comes to these things, science and all that, so that we don't stay away from our main topic of GeoNet. Let's get back to GeoNet. It's just that we talked about the
consulting work. Initially, actually, what I wanted to do was what Google was established in 1998. I wanted to do what Google Maps were doing. The aim of GeoNet, geography, that's actually present the Earth. The main was to be able to bring digital maps into your phones. Digital map into your computers. That's what I was trying to create, because I've been doing this now for almost a year. 10 years.
Back then in 2000, we used to have
something called Mapbox and
MapQuest.
Before MapQuest, I'm already consulting for engineering firms in New Jersey. What they had was they would use something called AutoCAD, drawing just wire diagrams that were showing where they're going to be either cutting a road or building this building or golf course or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, they were not being able to show what else related to it and even quantify it properly. But when you brought in geographic information systems, once you create any polygon, you are able to quickly query. What's the size of this polygon? What is it? What's the soil type? What is the land use and all that? We're able to build all that database. And when you see a Google map, there's a huge database behind it. And that's what I was mostly informed. Actually, for Kenya Wildlife Service, what I had done was training in-house. We had trained quite a number, and people like the World Bank people initially, when they had I want to establish GeoNet, GIS for wildlife management, say, where are you going to get people? I told some white guys from World Bank, watch me, I'll train. And Dr. Leakey backed me up. We got some trainers from California and software, and we got 2 people per computer. We had almost 5 people who had certificate in geographic information system. And after that, we started now taking them to a place like Netherlands. And I came with one colleague to Rutgers. We started producing a critical mass of staff who could do this. It's called capacity building. Geo was meant to be initially to be doing satellite databases.
Do you think if you didn't have all these red tapes and all this stuff, people blocking you in Kenya, that it would have, because Google and Google Maps are very recent?
Actually, the biggest problem I can tell almost anybody is be very careful when investing in Africa. Try and see how the government or the authorities are matching the laws or the policies on the books to actual practice. Because we are told by the government, come here, this is your license. Your license allows you to, like we have one license called International Gateway. It allows GeoNet to link Kenya to the rest of the world through radio, satellite, and fiber, and microwave, whichever way. And then somebody says, no, you can't run voice on that network. And yet your license says you can run any product.
Wow.
Okay.
How do you know ahead of course you do your research and all that, but you did say that before you invest in Africa, know in advance what, I guess, the politics in it, how it all plays but how do you know these things?
Well, one has to, like now I can tell you from my experience. My experience has been, and this is what I've been told, I came to realize I'm not the only one. Yes, when you are investing in from the diaspora, investing in Africa, many people think, one, that you have our money, which you don't. And secondly, is that you really need them because you don't have somebody as they call it, holding your hand around in Nairobi.
Yeah,
and, and for people like me who believe corruption or bribing is a sacrifice to Satan, is an offering to the devil, you end up in another problem. And actually, that is exactly what we have walked through.
How many shareholders do you have?
The Kenyan shareholder in total, besides myself, is about 8% of the company.
Okay. Gotcha.
About 19% is other Americans. Actually, about 30% is other Americans. And then myself, I'm the founder. She owns more than 50%. The biggest problem was GeoNet was supposed to be solving the problem of cost of calling and access of calling for diaspora.
Both ways? Was that going to be both ways?
Supposed to make calling from Kenya to international destination affordable and accessible. Those two things, affordable and accessible. And calling Kenya both affordable and accessible. But especially broking our technology of voice of IP. And then, it was already, that policy was already approved by the Kenyan cabinet. I have the history of it. I have some cabinet ministers who are in that committee who approved it, and was gazetted in August of 2005. But CA, the Communication Authority of Kenya, CCK then, won't lean hard on Safaricom. Safaricom became dominant by pushing other providers to the ground, by suppressing their growth. And for us, they will say, oh, we don't want those calls, or the US are coming through voice of IP. Voice of IP was allowed. And I can tell you, Liz, from 2005, it's not until 2002 that the Kenya Communication and Kenya Multimedia and Communication Appeal Court Command Tribunal really told CA, you made a mistake here from the very beginning. That was 2002. You are not supposed to be telling mobile operators they should be charging more for international calls when those calls are being handled in Kenya. If calls are being handled in Kenya, the switches are in Kenya, the billing is in Kenya, everything is in Kenya. The rate should be local because the call is local.
Yeah.
And that's what it's called a Communication and Media Appeal Tribunal Command. That's what is the rule. After they ruled that, we got back to CA. CA said, we are not going to enforce the law. It has forced GeoNet.
So at this point, when all these rulings are happening, did you have to go to court, or is this?
I went to court. Wow. Actually, 2012, after the new constitution was promulgated, we decided the CA, or the Communication Commission of Kenya, was changed to CA, or Communication Authority of Kenya. They changed the regulations to align with the new constitution and the freedoms that we have in doing trade.
Yeah.
I try to get in our customers. That time we are just selling calling cards. And then now we have something else called pinless service online. You go online, create your own account and call. My
grandmother doesn't have WhatsApp. So every time I have to call her, I have to log in and use some PIN number. And that's how I'm able to call her.
I'll show you how we have progressed to building an app that is better than WhatsApp.
Okay, because I was going to get there. That was going to be my next question.
I was going to show you, but actually, the Bible Proverbs 13:23 says, injustice causes waste. Because this law not being enforced has caused GeoNet to be like that dry desert behind my screen.
Wow.
Unproductive land with a lot of wealth in terms of technology, in terms of what we have built up. Actually, by the time Meta was buying WhatsApp for $19 billion, WhatsApp revenue was the same revenue with GeoNet.
What?
$1.3 million. Our highest, that has been our highest revenue.
Why would the Kenyan government do this? Because I had another story. I'm not going to get into a lot of, and you probably know there's a guy in New York who had his own technology trying to do that in Kenya. And whatever stuff happened with between the government and him with his technology, ran away to New York. And it's something to do with these verification systems we get. And his breakthrough was after September 11, where I think the Bank of America and I think it was Chase Manhattan were his first client and all that. But this technology could have been started in Kenya. So what is it about?
We have been our worst enemy. And I'll show you from Bible and politics. The Kenyans or Africans are not children of a lesser God. The same God who has blessed a nation like Israel, American, is the same God we worship. The problem has been us, and especially injustice. And injustice actually comes in many forms, but the worst injustice is when laws are passed and a civil servant is given a position of power to implement those laws. And refuses to implement them, first, maybe because they do not know how, or just political appointee, or even if they know how to do it, they want to be bribed to do it. They need inducement to do it. You should not be induced to serve your country. You should not be. That's actually the biggest problem I noticed when working with Dr. Leakey. And when I noticed that in civil service, I Dr. Leakey, one time he came and said, Peter, I have many people here who want you out of here. But then I have found your college in USA. By the time you finish your PhD, I would have gotten rid of them. They would have retired. go, because they don't want you here. Because I couldn't understand how
I just can't wrap my mind around a government that does not embrace. They tell us all the time, these people, I mean, I was with you at the Jamborees where we had these people from Kenya, and they come and they talk to us and they encourage us to invest back home, and everything sounds so good. Anyway, I don't know.
The issue, like for example, me, when I was training as a game warden in Tanzania, we had to do a class on wildlife management law. We had to understand, as a game warden, you needed to understand the laws that govern your sector. You needed to know how to treat a poacher you catch in Serengeti or Masai Mara. You needed to prepare the evidence well for the court. This was a full-time course on law. Then I come to Nairobi after Colorado State, and I look at the Land Planning Act. I'm looking at people building next to the park, Nairobi National Park. I say, no one is supposed to be building there according to the law, because you are supposed to create a 1 kilometer buffer between human development and every national park. And all of a sudden, I realized things are bad. And I'm a management planner, and the only one who was both a game warden now and has a degree. And one time, Dr. Leakey sent me to check something on the maps of Nairobi National Park. I went to the lands department, and I met a very good gentleman who used to be the deputy commissioner of land, called Chesaina. I understand he's gone home to be the Lord. Called Chesaina, and he tells me, Maina, as you and I are talking now, almost a third of Nairobi National Park is earmarked for excision. People want to cut a third of Nairobi National Park and use it. The Oreselani, where Oreselani is not supposed to be there. Oreselani Hotel.
This whole issue, even with the Nairobi National Park that you're talking about, because in the last, I want to say 1 or 2 months, we've seen the government demolishing homes after these heavy rains that they had of people who had built near the rivers. But then you wonder, how are these homes constructed? And they got the license because the Kanjo or whoever is in charge of that. The law says you cannot do it. They have a certain, like you said about the buffer, a certain number, I don't know, 200, 300, whatever, away from the river.
It's 30 meters from the riparian zone is supposed to be 30 meters wide, which is 30 meters, about 100 feet wide. Okay. No human construction around the riparian zones. But you see, that is what corruption, real corruption. You forget what people think about anything else. The real corruption is people looking at the law and saying that law does not apply to me. Whether it's being done by a policeman and a makanga on the road, or it's being done by a cabinet secretary and a land clerk, it is still corruption when you don't want to follow the rule of law. And once you don't want to have a government of laws, instead you have a government of men, then you end up with what we are seeing now in Kenya. And that's what institutional building is all about. It's to have a government of laws instead of government of men. Because men, you're depending with whoever is sitting on that at that desk that time. When they go, someone else come and messes them up. But when you have an institution, they will continue in respective
of who is
the office holder.
Yeah.
So that's who I have been. And I learned, literally, I started learning that Kenya was heading the wrong direction. You see, okay, let's talk about land issue a little bit. Why we ended up being so poor in Kenya from Dodori. Many people who are, like my father was in Manyani detention during Mau Mau. Most of my grandfather's kids and the sons-in-law were all locked up because he was a Mau Mau operative, according to JM Karaoke. And that's why the dying of JM Karaoke to me was very, very personal, because he was a contemporary of my uncles and my parents. We ended up with Nakuru getting the only land my parents could get was Nakuru District ex-freedom fighters organization called DEFO that had land in Joro, right in Nakuru, and the max they could get is 1.5 acres. Okay, so literally, I am finishing college here, and I'm trying to say, should I first just focus on investing in land, or should I just focus in technology?
Yeah.
In terms of reality and math on the paper, the best thing was to invest. That's why I told my father and my mom and dad, I told them, if I invest in technology, within a year or two, unless something comes that we do not know, we should be able to afford more than the 1.5 acres you have.
Yeah.
We should be able to buy all the land. I'm telling you, instead, GeoNet has been like that background I have there, a dry land with a lot of wealth. You see, with a dry land like that, you can knock those rocks off and build a house or something. Or maybe there's some those rocks that you could make money out of. So GeoNet is not completely dead. It's still it's still a going concern. Right now, we are still on a dry ground.
Listen, you can turn around and prophesy to that dry ground, just like Ezekiel 37.
Yes.
Son of man, can these bones live again?
Yes, that actually was yesterday's prophecy in our prayer. We believe in the God of resurrection. As I'm talking, customers are still using GeoNet. We have more than 200,000 accounts and getting new accounts every day. People download the app and they start calling immediately. Okay.
I have a question for you. How then is GeoNet? I know when you are trying, or when you started, when you are going through all the stuff you're going through with the Kenyan government, there was no all these other social media apps that people are using to call Kenya. How is GeoNet able to survive WhatsApp, Facebook, and God knows what other apps are out there where you can call Kenya and talk for hours? Because like my mother, when I talk to her, she tells me, oh, it's cheaper for me to talk to you on WhatsApp than me to make a call to another person in Kenya.
Yes, because WhatsApp is really data. But now the issue is GeoSafari, our first and main mobile app called GeoSafari. People can download it on Play Store or Google Apple Store.
Okay.
GeoSafari was created just around the same time with WhatsApp. It's almost like WhatsApp. You can text, and we didn't have enough financial resources to turn on our video management. So on our back end, we have switched off video, but we have enabled SMS and calling. You can call. Now with GeoSafari, the difference with GeoSafari is you can call somebody who doesn't have GeoSafari. If your show in Tumaini need you to call her, you use GeoSafari, you can reach her on her phone. I'm downloading GeoSafari as we talk. And I'm gonna send somebody to help out. So she doesn't need to have it. She doesn't need to have it. That's actually why we were buying all these licenses in Kenya, We were building a network whereby you're not dependent on internet, because internet penetration, Kenya has one of the highest internet penetration in Africa, but still we have a lot of people who don't have smartphones. Even those with smartphone don't have bundles.
GeoSafari, that just downloaded it.
Yeah, you have many who don't have internet or bundles. So you're dealing with a situation whereby people will still be needing to talk to each other affordably and accessibly. And that is where GeoSafari comes in. If your folks or your people in the rural areas don't have internet, that you still can reach them affordably. But when they have access to a smartphone or internet, they can talk to you freely. GeoSafari to GeoSafari is free, like WhatsApp.
Let me make sure I understand. You are saying, like, like now I just downloaded it.
Yeah.
If I want to call my show tomorrow, I will use GeoSafari, even though I don't need to. She doesn't need to have it, because I don't know, maybe it's a type of phone
she doesn't need to have it, and you even don't have to dial 254. There is no other number to dial. Or you dial in. You dial 07 because GeoSafari runs from Kenya.
Oh, is that so? So I'll be okay. So how am I paying from here?
You can pay with PayPal. When you go to GeoSafari, you have option of using PayPal, credit card. There is at the end there, at the bottom left, bottom right, there are 3 dots. When you click the 3 dots, you see recharging. Recharging has M-Pesa, PayPal, debit card, vouchers, and other ways. So you can top it up with the way you want.
So I'm creating an account where I put money either via PayPal, whatever, however I want to put in the money there.
Yes.
So you are telling me when I call, it's going to be cheaper than the way I call.
2012, I asked the mobile operators, why don't you allow our calls to go through? They give me reasons here that I did not agree with the reasons, because that's not what the law says. And
the mobile operator where? In Kenya?
Yeah, there are 3. There is Safaricom, there is Airtel, and there is Telecom Kenya. Eventually, 2005 is when I approached the authority, communication authority, asked them, can't you enforce the law of interconnection? That's the first time authority now writes to the mobile operators to explain why they have kept GeoNet out of interconnection.
Wait, I think I'm getting lost. So you are saying Safaricom, and what's the other one?
You see, the law requires, even here with federal communication or with authority in Kenya, the law requires all telephone companies must interconnect.
Okay, all of them.
So that customers of T-Mobile can be able to call customers of AT&T and vice versa. The same thing with Kenya. Customers of mobile of Telecom Kenya should be able to call customers of Safaricom.
Okay.
That is the law. But they decided to keep GeoNet out.
Oh my God, they're just playing daddy over there. Oh, MG.
So 2015 is when I saw some of them writing saying, no, we cannot be able to compete with GeoNet because most of our international calls come from North America, and GeoNet is the only Kenyan company that is both American telecom company.
Wait,
so they have the monopoly.
They are saying most of the people who are calling Kenya from North America.
Yes, they were saying if they give us the interconnection, we'll take all those calls from North America, and North America is where most of their calls come from. And it's true, where most of their money comes from is where most of the calls also come from, because when you send money, you also follow it up with a call. You check, Mom, did you get money? Sure, did you get this paid? So that was true. But the only thing that was not true is that they cannot compete with me, because in USA, GeoNet is licensed by Federal Communication as a global telecom. Okay, we are licensed here.
I think I'm still getting lost, because I'm trying to figure out as their argument what you're saying. They're getting these calls from North America, but you are also here in America, or GeoNet is here in America. So what's the difference between people using you? Or is it because this is also local in Kenya?
Because you see, I'm supposed to be local in Kenya. So what they were saying is that GeoNet is going to end up carrying all the international calls. Because
I would not use
because GeoNet
is
carrying is an American company, but also a Kenyan company. Okay. And they felt that was going to be an issue they don't want to do with it. So it was pure malice and anti-competitive behavior.
But the law says you all have to work together.
We all have to interconnect.
The law does not say if your company is formed in America and you're also working in Kenya, the other companies can't work with you.
The truth is, 2016, Justice Odunga ruled CA was a problem, did not enforce the laws right. We were all supposed to interconnect. That was not dealt with. When Safaricom was the first one to interconnect with us, when they saw our traffic, they saw a lot of calls coming from GeoNet, they started blocking all but 5% of the calls. There were days Safaricom would waste 1.5 million calls from GeoNet. Just block them, just to run us down. We've been operating a network facility in Nairobi.
By blocking, you mean I'm calling my show back in Shags, and Safaricom sees this call coming through. Let's say she's using Safaricom, and they block my call.
They block they will block. Assume 1,000 people are calling through to the Safaricom, and you're one of those. They will only let 60 through. Okay. Okay. The other 940 will not, 60,000. The other 940 are not allowed to call. Those other calls are blocked. Okay.
Wow.
So it became a wasteful thing, just trying to run us dry. We sought CA help, Communication Authority. Even after that, and then Communication Authority warned Safaricom. I can show you the letter here if you want to see. They were warned.
I believe you, because I heard you telling that, yes, you had what? Is it 40 million Kenya shillings?
Literally, they were penalized 450 million shillings for that action. And then
Safaricom? Is it Safaricom?
Safaricom. I don't know whether they paid. We came to realize later they didn't pay it. But then what happened was, we realized CA really was not going to help us. I had approached the minister in charge, and the minister in charge had told me, Maina, if I get involved in this case, I'll lose my job. The minister in charge of information those days told me, if I get in, Maina, if I enforce the law here, I'm going to lose my job.
So, just hold on there. The other two companies, the smaller ones, I don't remember.
Airtel and Telecom Kenya.
Airtel, that other one.
Their market share is about 25% of voice. Yeah, of 25% is pure Safaricom.
Yeah, Safaricom is a king. But were these other two little companies here working with the GeoNet, or they were
right now they do. They were still interconnected with Airtel, and so but they only allow 30% of our calls. They don't allow most of international calls. So we ended up running a network facility, a telecommunication switching facility that is running at only a third capacity. You're paying so much money, making very little. It's just like trying to get water out of that rock. That rock has some water, but you have to drill very hard to get some water out of it.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what GeoNet has been experiencing. And then to the last year, the High Court again, we went back to High Court. The High Court told CA, we are giving you 60 days to enforce the law. These barriers against GeoNet market entry got to come down. To this day, CA has not done it.
The High Court
of Kenya again, because we had no other choice but to go there. Now, to go and seek more help from the court.
And how are you doing all these things? Oh, of course, you have your lawyers in Kenya, but that must be a headache when you're having to deal.
It's a headache. It has really taken a toll on. You're looking at a situation whereby it's either you do it or lose millions. We have so far invested over $12 million. It's either you lose a project of $12 million and all keep at it, keep fighting it with prayer, hoping that at one of these days the courts will be listened to, the laws will be enforced. That's what you keep doing, hoping that the court.
Are you saying you have invested $12 million in the project?
This project has cost more than $12 million since 2 years.
And in Kenya, and how much money have you spent in Kenya trying to fight this injustice through the court system?
Right now is about 12 million shillings.
12 million
in legal fees. Name those big names or major known senior counsels. They have all had $1 million or more from GeoNet.
And you're fighting. You're hiring lawyers and going to court.
I have so many lawyers working for GeoNet even now as I'm talking to you.
Having them to go to court so that they can enforce the laws that are already, not that they create new laws, but the laws are already in the books.
The laws are in the books. There's actually right now where because some of my American investors, they really want to get their investment back. And you know, there's someone go to Congress, get this the U.S. Congress to help you. But one of the lawyers said, Peter, okay, we do not know when the Court of Appeal will get these orders enforced, or the High Court to get.
So who is appealing? Who is appealing?
Well, what happened is that we had one case. We calculated the loss we have incurred against Safaricom.
Yeah.
And it came to 10.48 billion shillings. So we sued them for 10.4 billion shillings.
That is the losses, not the legal, not your legal fees.
No, that's our lost business.
Lost business. Okay,
10.48 billion. And we calculated and we showed the court. That judge says he doesn't have jurisdiction to handle it. So we gave it to the Court of Appeal. She said that in March. So we had to take it to the Court of Appeal. She said she can't handle that kind of amount of money.
In Kenya.
Yeah, so we have a case in the Court of Appeal for 10.4 billion.
So you're appealing for what? The judge saying she cannot.
We are appealing for lost minutes, lost business, and we have shown.
But that's a lawsuit. But that is a lawsuit against Safaricom, yeah.
That's a lawsuit against Safaricom. The law of enforcing the orders of the court is still pending. It's still being dealt with. You know, because the last year, April, Justice Mura of the High Court ruled, CA, you are the one who is not enforcing the law.
But the CA told you that they cannot enforce the laws, they will lose their job.
That's actually the CS who had told me that.
The CS.
Yes,
Okay.
But you see, the Constitution has given CA communication authority.
Who is a CA and who is a CA?
That time was the CS during Uhuru's time was Moshero.
No, not necessarily the person name. CA is some communication, something.
Communication Authority of Kenya is the one which the Constitution gives it a mandate. The Constitution gives the Communication Authority of Kenya the mandate to regulate communication in Kenya, and the Constitution says they should do so without political or commercial influence. They have written they saying they don't want to do it.
Let me ask you, if the former CS, I'm assuming in this case was Moshero, said
that was Moshero who told me that.
Yes, he told you he could not enforce the laws because he could lose his job.
Yeah, I asked him because we knew each other before he became CS. But I'm sure, how can you tell me that? You took an oath. He tells me, Maina, you don't understand anything. Get a mzee around here who can hold your hand and you navigate the system.
Oh my gosh.
That Jabolist meeting I had, another person, one of the panelists saying the same thing. It was being said you have to look for a mzee around who can hold your hand. Some of us don't go to those dens to drink with them. Some of us do not know others who can represent you, and GeoNet cannot be involved in any corruption affairs. Corruption. You get corrupt in Kenya, you come here when you reach at the airport, you are in. There's what we call Anti-Foreign Corruption Act. You get it, you'll be locked.
You'll be locked here.
And plus, morally is wrong. You know, God says he hates bribing. He hates corruption.
My question to you is, have you tried to talk to the new CS now, the one who took over from Moshero? Or are you now dealing?
I have sent two CS.
Or CA or whoever.
The new CS knows about the matter because there's another CS and even CS Miana who was here recently that they know this matter. The permanent secretary in charge told me personally in Atlanta, Maina, I know your case. And yet they're doing nothing. And all they have to do is to do what the High Court have told them to do: enforce the law and make sure.
Who is the PS? Is this the Abu Bakr?
Tanui. Abu Bakr is for trade, but ICT CS is John Tanui, Engineer Tanui. Okay. And I believe I decided, okay, what we have a good board on the ground. I have good men and women working for GeoNet on the ground. We had to lay off a lot of our staff. The other staff, we had to put them under almost a third of salary to sustain them just a little bit. And when we used to pay medical cover insurance for our staff, all of them, from the tea lady to the general manager, 10 million shillings. Now all that went because we couldn't afford it more.
Basically, who you are fighting here and who is fighting you is Safaricom. Let's just be.
Safaricom has been the problem.
Yes.
But all the three mobile operators have been the problem. But the biggest problem, according to the courts, is that CA, the constitutional body that's supposed to be enforcing the law, is not enforcing the law. And this is a conflict of interest because you end up with some directors at CA who are investors in Safaricom. So actually, they are there protecting their investment in Safaricom.
Oh, I see how they are playing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of conflict of interest. But I don't care if they owned Safaricom, so long as when they are occupying the public office, they are enforcing the law. That is actually what is killing Kenya's economy. Is as Solomon says, as I say in Proverbs 13, whatever, when you don't have justice, even people could be very poor in the midst of a lot of plenty. He is saying you could have a fallow ground, very productive ground, but you end up with poor people because of injustice. Okay?
I think when you have the president of Kenya, even during Uhuru, now we have Ruto, and you also had Obama when he was president going to Kenya. They are always working out these things of how these two countries can work together. We just had them here last month or May. Biden met with Ruto and all this stuff. I don't know what it was he was doing here. How is it then people here can do business with Kenya when there's all this corruption and all these politicians that just can't enforce the laws in the books?
Actually, this matter I gave it to Ambassador Megan last year, September, and she connected me with her commercial attaché. The commercial attaché team told me, Peter, we have a lot of problem with CA. There are other American companies with problem with CA. So we have a government agency actually killing ICT business in Kenya just because they either they don't. What I realize, there's an element of them not understanding technology. Okay, because I will come with maps and show them how network diagrams, and you hear them calling something that you. No, that is not what it's called. That is such and that. So there's an element of them not having the knowledge. But the problem is when they don't have the knowledge, they should not be obstructionists. They should be letting everything work, so long as it's not interfering with the national security or defrauding Kenyans. Okay, if Kenyans are not losing money, there is no national security threat. Technology should be allowed to grow. That's how Silicon Valley has evolved. Is by letting private sector continue doing what they know how to do best, innovate. So the GeoSafari, when we were starting it, we had thought in 2 or 3 years we'll be in millions of downloads. Okay, and we'll be pretty much. We had planned by 2013. We had planned to reach at New York Stock Exchange. And I had hired an SEC lawyer. He's still a friend of mine. He was starting on a process of reverse IPO. We were going to list. But instead, you're ending up living like a pauper, bills mounting on both sides of the continent because you're not allowed to generate whatever. Now, if you call Safaricom customer, the call will go through. But I'm buying that access through international aggregation companies. How they connect to Kenya, we do not know. All we know is that they can tell you, we'll carry your call for you, Peter. okay, but pay this much. We pay like 3, 4, actually we pay like 1,000 times what we are supposed to pay if we are directly going to Kenya. Yeah. Guess who we pass that cost to is the consumer. Because there are people, like I saw today somebody use their card, activate their card from Vietnam, okay? You have a Kenyan visiting Vietnam, they are not calling cards in Vietnam to call back home. But that's where GeoNet comes in, that we are global and we can call anywhere there is a phone, even
so
on the surface of the moon.
How do you compete with now the WhatsApp? How does that play in? I think I had that earlier.
No, as I said earlier, WhatsApp is internet call to internet call. That's why Safaricom and Airtel are not fighting it that much, because they don't have that technology yet. It's internet call to internet call. Okay. But when that call comes from internet to Safaricom cellular network, that's where interconnection comes in.
Okay, got you.
When you're coming from internet, what we call internet protocol, IP protocol, to cellular network, 4G, 5G, 3G, that's another protocol. When you're interconnecting, that's where the interconnection is required. WhatsApp cannot do that.
If you call Kenya on WhatsApp, because I see it happen all the time, I'll be talking to my mom or anyone in Kenya, and if another call comes for them, automatically Safaricom switches them off to their.
It's a drop. WhatsApp has not built that. We have built that in a GeoSafari. Okay. So yeah, and actually we were supposed to be. You see, in about 5 years from now, you don't need SIM cards anymore. For the phone CPU, the phone processor alone will have the numbers you have on your SIM card, and that's where GeoNet is going to. Well, our aim was, or still the motto of our company is, anything that can be done by software, you choose software instead of hardware. Okay. Wow. But because what happened is hardware has other associated software we call firmware, and they have end of life time. But software, you keep on renewing. You just code it differently. You keep on upgrading the software.
Yeah.
So GeoSafari is aimed to be actually by next 5 years or so to be almost like a software that is coming to already embedded in your phone. Okay. That's what we plan to do. Okay. But and we believe we will succeed. By God's grace, we will win all these battles and be able to get on our development technology. And the other thing we want to do is there's another one we call Etana. Etana is not yet ready for download, but Etana is configured differently for North American, Latin America market. Okay. And then that's more like WhatsApp, Etana, but still having some parts of functions of WhatsApp and GeoSafari. And for payment, right now, most of our money, because most of the operation is in Kenya, most of the funds comes through M-Pesa. But for payment with Etana and GeoPesa, we have a payment platform, an e-wallet called GeoPesa that also is coming through.
You're going to have a battle with Safaricom. Now I see why they don't
want. They know. Actually, they know GeoPesa is already incorporated in Kenya, and we have we can't, you see, they don't have the monopoly of power. Okay.
But isn't that what they are trying to do, to have the monopoly? That's why they try.
But they don't have the monopoly of or the genius of innovation. But they have been genuine with us. One thing, Peter, we don't have all this technology, and we buy GeoNet. What I told them is, let's just work together for 6 months without fighting within the law. Then with the price we are setting, I was with some witnesses, both meetings at some hotels and meetings at their headquarters. And I told them the price we are setting, then we won't be fighting over the price, because all they wanted is the technology. Okay. But we have worked so hard to build this thing.
You don't want to sell it.
Yeah, and we could just give it for free. Yeah. We knew when we told them maybe $100 million, they'll start saying, no, it can't be that. But I wanted them to test it. We worked together. Then when we are talking of $100 million, they understand
what it is,
the value that they are buying.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how the transition from education to being the CEO of GeoNet Communication, or the founder and the CEO. Now, things like my geographic database and GIS and GPS integration, that has taken back burner. I sometimes look at it and say, I wish I did start with just that instead of telecommunication. But telecommunication, I was just trying to offer a service. I just wanted to help Kenya and help Kenyans in the diaspora.
How are you dealing with, or how are your shareholders for GeoNet taking this whole mess? Like, well, how are they?
There are some, especially I feel for the Kenyans, because there are some Kenyans who invested upward of maybe $250,000. And for a Kenyan to put $250,000 in one project, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And I feel for them. But now they understand where the problem came. Well, among Americans, you know, there are those who have put maybe $500,000 or more dollars, but they also know they are well knowledgeable. They are what we call accredited investors. Some of them have lost more than that money, more than what they have invested in GeoNet in Wall Street, and they're still recovered. So they are still very patient with it, but everybody is up in arms. They want to see their money come back, and I understand it. And that's actually why I fight for this, because as a man of God, God wants us to be faithful. We want us to be faithful stewards in whatever we are doing. By now, I thought it would be more on the media side. This is a full-time job that has taken so much.
Yeah.
Every day I work in Kenya. Mostly I end up my day between 1 and 3 a.m. Then by 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm awake again before they go home.
Yeah.
See whether there's a document I need to sign or I need to talk to someone. Yeah. So it's been a big draw on my life, my family life, and it has affected some of those high investors in GeoNet from Kenya. But there is still a lot to be gained. If tomorrow or next month we have no more fight with Safaricom, we're interconnecting, we can recoup, according to our business plan, we can recoup that within a very short time. We expect to go from almost 250,000 accounts right now to maybe 1 million accounts within 12 months. After interconnection. And we're going to continue building a complete social media platform. We're not going to go back away from that integrates payment systems, video systems, and or calling, SMS into the future. We're not giving up.
Were you in Atlanta last month?
Yeah, I went to Atlanta.
So the Safaricom CEO was there.
The schedule was very tight. We text each other. I said, "Maina, I can't be able to talk on this." But he appeared to be extremely sick. But eventually I talked to the founding chairman, Michael Joseph, and the founding chairman of Safaricom. He explained to me what's going on. He was sympathetic that this has taken too long, and he gave some direction, and we are trying to follow the direction he gave, try and resolve this. I have some board members on the ground working on this, and then the minister, and I mean the Abu Bakr and others, we are talking to them. We hope they can resolve the matter. Yeah. But the lawyers have another plan of appealing to Parliament once they constitute, for Parliament to check why their laws have not been enforced. Okay. Before we start, satisfying the will of our American investors and appealing to U.S. Congress to intervene to help us out.
Are you actually planning to take this to Congress if all fails?
We've mentioned it to 1 or 2 senators that this is an issue we're having, but the American investors in them, they don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
They're saying, why don't you seek help from U.S. Congress?
Yeah.
Let's see if CA does not enforce the law, and we'll try to talk to Kenya Parliament. And if Kenya Parliament cannot handle it, then we'll try to make sure that, you see, as a CEO and the chairman of the board on both sides of the continent, I have to be doing all I can to save people's investment. They have to see it tagibly that I made all the effort.
Yeah, they have to see that doing everything you can, because that's the
Yes.
money on the line.
Those things have been floated around. I hope we don't have to go further than Kenyan Parliament.
I think they will do something. I think they will do something now that the Parliament, these kids, the Gen Z, are on top of everything.
If the people who are hijacking Gen Z don't ban the country, I think we have a real chance of a country being reborn with people learning to talk with each other and solve problems on the table. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. That is good. You know, I'm so happy that you came here to share all this with us. I really wanted to hear what is the deal with the GeoNet. And boy, you know, just have to pray for you, and you just keep pushing. You know,
we'll keep pushing. The honest truth I can tell any diaspora investor is really try and do enough due diligence, especially on law enforcement. I've been invited by some people, including Tanzanian ambassador to US, to invest in Tanzania, and the same thing with the ambassador from Botswana and Namibia.
Are they any better?
And Uganda to bring these technologies there. But then my question has been, I really need to understand the laws. If Kenya is supposed to be the best and we're having this trouble, I don't want to put another $1 million in another country that I cannot claim citizenship. At least being a Kenyan American, I still have a stake in Kenya as a Kenyan. That I can be able to, but if I got Tanzania, I may not have the same fighting ability to fight that investment.
I agree, and we pray that this.
But if we open up in Kenya, we have ability to expand in the region because we have technologies that our social media communication platform called GeoPesa or Etana, GeoSafari or Etana, are able to grow. We have a trajectory.
Question for you, Peter. Question for you: does GeoPesa works like the way these apps we use here to send money to Kenya works, or is GeoPesa
pretty much like it? But GeoPesa, unlike what Cash App or Sendwave, GeoPesa is closer to what PayPal.
To PayPal.
Yeah, more than these others. Cash App, maybe you can link one or two.
You can use GeoPesa as a payment gateway?
Yes.
Okay.
But we have not launched it yet.
Okay.
The main reason why we have not launched it yet because we want to launch it from the USA side. After this, we'll be very careful. Actually, other than we have a business plan for 5G, 4G.
Okay.
In Kenya. It's a $150 million plan over 10 years. But we have already talked to Exim Bank, and we are in the process of acquiring the first 10% to roll out 5G in 5 counties as a test case. If it goes well, then that the GeoSafari and 5G will be like pretty much all that we do for Kenya and GeoPesa. But any other investment after that, we want to focus more on North America. We put our eggs in one basket called Kenya, and I can tell you, I won't advise others to do the same. It can burn you.
Do you want to give Verizon a run for their money? Verizon?
No, actually, the good thing with IT, there are so many, many niches. And being a wildlife ecologist, I know how you can see all those zebras and wildebeest and toppies and whatever eating on the same plain grassland area, and they don't kill each other. You know how they survive. It's called niche differentiation. In ecology, you can be able to look for your ICT niche and make money in that niche. Yeah, that's actually why we believe we can do well in America with America.
Okay, got you. That's amazing. You're
and
doing
it's more predictable that all you're doing is, so long as you're generating revenue, almost nobody will stop you from growing. Competition will be there, but you know where you're headed to.
Hey, there's enough for everybody. What is
in North America, there's enough for everybody. Kenya is a single state like Texas. And, so many people have really lost money. Dominion was there. Many other people. I would like later on I would like us to do one session on food security.
Okay.
In the midst of these struggles, if Kenya was to focus more on the food security value chain, we will be able to overcome poverty in that country. And so there is a website there if you want. I can type it here, called Food Security Consortium. So we formed two diaspora organizations. One is called Kenya Diaspora Alliance, and another one called One Voice with Dr. Shuri. We formed.
Who is Washiri? The guy from Optiven or another Washiri?
No, there's a Dr. Shuri from.
Oh, Shuri.
Yeah,
okay.
from One Voice.
Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about now.
You know, Dr. Shuri.
Yeah.
He's the chairman of our organization. I have typed you've seen the text?
Yeah, you know what? It's too small here. Do me a favor. Just text me on WhatsApp when you're done, and I'll put it on the video.
Show people. Food security, the whole aim is we, the diaspora, should be able to mobilize technical resources and financial resources to affect food security in the country, because food security can lift up everybody in Kenya. Okay. And we did not want to reinvent the wheel. We looked at what Abraham Lincoln did in the midst of the Civil War in 1862, came up with USDA. And he said USDA should be able to feed America and the world and manage American natural resources. And for Kenya, we realized if we could be able to spend maybe up to $10 billion in water harvesting and distribution alone, make sure every homestead has enough water, we would overcome poverty in a big way.
All right, I'm going to bring you back and talk about that. That's the Kenya Diaspora Alliance?
Kenya Diaspora Alliance and One Voice.
Alliance. Oh, not Alliance.
Some of the trustees are from Kenya Diaspora. The others are from One Voice. But Food Security is an NGO here in the US. And has been incorporated now as an NGO in Kenya with two aims: mobilizing financial and technical resources to defeat food insecurity. Now, food insecurity is a lot of things. It's not only having enough unga, but it's also having being able to store corn for a long time. You see, we think that there's some stories in the Bible are just stories.
The 7 cows, what is it? The cows eating other cows, and then the dream was about.
Joseph knew something there that all people of East Africa should learn. He is saying there will be 7 years, the Nile will have a lot of water.
Yeah.
And then 7 years, East Africa will be so dry that there will be not enough water coming from Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and whatever, to take water to Egypt. So that tells us these drought issues that we've been facing are not new.
Wow, that's so
and the way Joseph handled it is the same way we need to handle it. Do we have the infrastructure to make sure that in those 7 years of drought, we can have enough to survive?
That makes a lot of sense. We do have enough, we just don't have the infrastructure to save.
And then what happens is 80% of the population of Kenya is squeezed in under 30% of the country. Well, the rest of 70% of the country has about 20% of the population.
Wow.
So people are competing for the same small plotty, going demand and supply, making those plots very expensive and not producing enough. Well, there's so much land to produce.
They're selling everything around Nairobi. Now we are into Matu. The next time, I guess, we don't know what it's or even agriculture that is going to be left.
There's something I always believe. You just don't preach the word of God if you cannot be practical about it.
Yeah.
When Jesus is seeing 5,000 people hungry, he is telling the apostles, don't just, they are telling him, oh, Master, let's send them away. It's getting late, so they can go and get something to eat. But then the Lord tells them, you feed them.
You feed them,
That is the role of pastors. Not only feed with the word, but to make sure your flock is fed, is clothed.
I don't know that
Poverty
you want to
is
go
not an
that
issue.
direction. I don't know
Eh,
you want to go that direction about feeding them and telling pastors to feed people, but
No,
that's
that's what Jesus tells the pastors to do. And
that's
that's
how it
what pastors should be saying.
Yeah.
How can you teach your people to be able to say, we're going to overcome poverty? There's no need of praying for somebody to get a change of clothing. If there's a way they can be able to get that clothing on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
God doesn't get tired with us praying for rain, but we should be able to ask him to help us save all the water that comes when there's a lot of rain like we had this year.
Yeah. I realize that we have so much to talk. So I'm absolutely going to bring you back very soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks.
No problem.
Because I do want you to talk about this WorldCoin thing.
Okay.
I want you to prove to us that it's not the mark of the beast.
Okay.
It's not Bill Gates way of I don't know, God knows what. There's all these conspiracy theories out there.
My older sister, when it came to taking the COVID shots, I talked to her. My niece tells me, Mom is refusing to take the shots. Yeah. Then I call her and I said, "Oh, well, I hear you're refusing to take the COVID shots. What's going on?" No, they're saying is the mark of the beast. I say, did they ask you to deny Jesus? If somebody has not asked you to deny Jesus, then it's not the mark of the beast.
Yeah. Even in Kenya, when they were introducing is it called Huduma number? There was something they were trying. Is it called Huduma number? They were trying to. Yeah,
then they called Maisha number. It's Social Security.
That's what it sounded like, the Social Security system we have here. And I had so many people say now this is the real number of the beast.
The simple question you got to ask, for you to get that number, you must deny Christ. Are they asking you to deny Christ? The Bible is very clear. What the devil wants from you is total obedience and allegiance to him. If you don't, that number is useless to him if you're not worshiping him. Okay?
So, Peter, I have to bring you back.
Give me enough time to prepare maybe a slide presentation to show them from scriptures. Because I like illustrating things, because when Jesus says in John 17:17, my word is the truth. Okay? That means exactly that. The word of God is enough truth to help us. I told you where my career began.
Yeah.
Just with a desire to save wildlife.
The boy from Dodori.
Yes. So anyway, because I grew up with those animals and I love them. Actually, my parents used to say I used to talk to them. And I still have some very beautiful, I still love wildlife to this day. I have a lot of wildlife movies. So what I'm trying to say is that the word of God is sufficient for us to work with, to solve Mambo, even like that Mambo of WorldCoin. For example, I have enough reason to believe that if we don't strengthen our security, online security or e-commerce security, like the Latina scanning, if we don't strengthen that, we're going to have a problem, especially with AI, because AI has the capability to really hack what we call your password. The new, from the end of this year or most of next year, most laptop will be coming up with neural network processing units, which can handle processing of graphics at a very high speed. And no matter how much you try to do, AI is going to destroy the security level, and the encryption of WhatsApp as we know it will be something on the past.
I understand what you're saying, but I also think some of us are very naive when it comes to stuff like this, and it's always good to know.
One thing I can leave your listeners with, and especially when it comes to things of the Word of God, read and reread again Matthew 24.
Signs of the end of the age.
Yes. When the Lord is speaking about deception, that is the worst enemy of humanity, deception.
Yeah.
And when deceptive people, Trump, Putin, and others can come and lie, and people call that truth. And even evangelicals follow them. Exactly what Daniel is saying in Daniel 11:30. That even some of understanding will be deceived. Deception will be the worst thing that the devil is going to destroy people with. It's not actually a mark. It's that deception. That's the enemy. People being told what you believe is truth is no longer truth. And that's why Daniel says the people who know their God shall be strong and do exploit. Because it's the knowledge of God that really helps us stand the hour of the Antichrist. Okay.
So the folks in Kenya should not be scared of the 1 coin, whatever that was, because Peter is going to be here a few weeks from now and expand on that.
Okay. So you tell me which topic. Now I have food security, which is my passion. I've already talked about GeoNet. If there is more question about GeoNet, we can talk about that.
Yes.
But I would like to demystify some of this technology, like vaccination and GMO and WildCoin. Demystify. The thing is, the answer is in the Bible itself.
Okay.
The devil is after one thing, being worshipped. And if he is not asking you to worship him, then your computer is not Satan. About when Leighton, when I was in New York and he was preaching the number of the beast is a computer.
Oh yes, yeah.
I could not agree with him and I didn't want to fight with him.
Remember when he was talking to us about Y2K and how the whole computer systems are going to I do remember.
Sometimes you just look at people, you know they're not telling the truth, but sometimes for Christian you pray. You pray for them that the Father will open the understanding.
But then that is sad when that is being fed to people from the pulpit, because you tend to believe what your pastor says. You can't believe and follow blindly, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah, that's why like GeoNet has a broadcast license in Kenya. And one of the reasons why I feel kind of frustrated, because by now actually we have a PhD head of our communication department. She's teaching in a university in Nairobi. GeoNet paid for her PhD work because we wanted her to handle the media side of GeoNet. And one of the things we want to do is to make sure if it's the gospel, it's really being disseminated as truth. The word of God in itself is enough. And look deep enough and you will see there is nothing new even in our new technology that the Bible hasn't covered. You just have to look deep in it. When God is telling Joshua in Joshua 1:8, just take this law, take my words and study them, meditate over and over these words, and you have good success and prosper. He is saying, my laws, my words will always lead to success and prosperity. His law is just, is full of mercy to help somebody who has, missed the mark, to correct their work. And above all, it is sufficient. Actually, it even dealt with the issues of habitat management. I told somebody that when I was in college in Tanzania. I said, actually, the Bible says, God is telling the children of Israel, you can't take the whole land all at once until you increase in number, because there are too many animals there. That, I told my professor, is an inverse relationship we see now between human population and wildlife population. One increases, the other one decreases. The Bible is talking about it all the way thousands of years. Now, it doesn't have to be so. We can always manage wildlife population together with human population. Anyway, those are something else, but that's how I mixed my career with the word. And I believe in the word of God. It's truth.
Yes. Agree. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Peter. There's so much, but I'm just so happy that we were able to talk about GeoNet tonight. And next time we'll talk about these other issues.
Hopefully next time we'll talk about GeoNet. We're already in the process of rolling out the 5G. The broadcast is up, and antenna is up. We are really offering the solution we wanted to offer Diaspora. The reason is there is no one who should be in Kenya. No one should be paying roaming fees wherever you are traveling, Europe, Africa, whatever.
They pay roaming fee? Do they pay roaming fee?
When you come here, they are paying roaming fee. All they have to do is download GeoSafari, and your calls are local because it's working from Nairobi. That's actually why they hate, some of them hate us, because GeoSafari eliminates roaming fee across the globe.
That is awesome. You have done a great job, Peter.
Yes.
And it's nice to see you after so many years. Maybe next time I'm gonna look for you in church, but I usually do.
I always sit, there's a prayer. There are seats for the prayer team on the back, and I've always sat there.
I sit at the balcony all the time.
Okay, let me know if you want any other topic I prepare about. Well, what I do is I still read widely. I still make sure I keep myself informed.
Awesome. So thank you so much. I really appreciate. I don't take time for granted, and I will see you next week. Is that okay? Or not next week, maybe in a couple of weeks to give you time to prepare.
I'll let you know. We are supposed to see our grandkids in Texas and Colorado.
Oh, okay, so you'll be traveling.
We are not sure which day we are going. Probably check with me over the weekend.
That is okay.
If I'm available Wednesday or Thursday.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.